Hey guys, maintaining hope when facing ME/CFS can be a challenge since the medical world often doesn't have much to offer. But Sky Hart never lost sight of her hope. It took her 2 years of trying different things, but she completely turned her life around. If you're new here, I'm Raelan, and every week I talk to people who have recovered from ME/CFS and long COVID, diving deep into what worked for them, what didn't, and all the insights they gained on their journey. Today we've got Sky with us. She's originally from Devon, England, but she's joining us today over from the beautiful Algarve in Portugal. Devon was just 19 when she got glandular fever that evolved into ME/CFS. She went from being super active to stuck in bed and even hospitalized. But here she is, ready to share how she found her way to a full recovery. Sky, so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So what are you most excited about sharing in this video today?
I think I'm most excited about sharing my story more publicly because I have spoken about it before, but I'm always recommending to my clients and anyone who is on their own journey to, if you're going to listen to recovery stories, make sure they're positive ones. So I think it's always great if your story resonates with, even if it's just one person, to give them that spark and that hope is so, so valuable. So I'm very excited for that. And I'm excited to share my view and my approach on holistic, sustainable recovery, because that's what I experienced. And to me, anything to do with the human body has to be a holistic approach because we are holistic beings, So I'm excited to talk about that today.
Oh, I'm really excited to dive into all of this. This is really great stuff. But just before we do, in continuing my effort to put out as much quality content as I can at no cost to you, I'd like to thank Proven Skincare for sponsoring today's video. What is Proven Skincare? Imagine skincare that's as unique as you are, backed by the world's largest skincare database, the Skin Genome Project, that won MIT's 2018 Artificial Intelligence Award. Proven's nickname is the Tesla of skincare. Their 3-minute skin genome quiz analyzes 47 factors about you to create a custom 3-step skincare system: a cleanser, a day moisturizer with SPF, and a night cream, all tailored to your skin's specific needs. Over the years, I've been on a roller coaster with my skincare routine, from being overwhelmed by complicated skincare regimens to dealing with products that just didn't work well for me. It's been a bit frustrating, and my skin never felt great after using these supposed one-size-fits-all solutions. So what I love about Proven is that their personalized approach looks at everything. So my skin type, my lifestyle, even my local environment. And after using their 3-step skincare system for just 2 weeks, I was noticing positive changes. My skin felt hydrated, but not heavy. It looked fresher, smoother, and just overall healthier. What stands out to me is how they factor in 47 elements about me to craft my skincare. So this level of personalization is something that I haven't seen before, and it truly speaks to what makes Proven different. So click the link in my description box and use my code Raelan, RAELAN, to get your first personalized Proven system for $99 for a limited time. This represents a 50% discount off the retail price. Now, let's dive into today's inspiring health recovery story. All right, so this all started very young for you. What has your journey been like?
Yeah, so I was 19 when I got the virus that triggered my chronic fatigue syndrome. And it was a really pivotal turning point in my life. And, now for me, 5, 6 years later, I always look back on it and see it as something that I'm super, super grateful for, because it's kind of shaped who I am today and it really sort of fast-tracked me on a journey to sort of find out what health meant to me. But obviously at the time, it wasn't all that. And I got glandular fever, which is what triggered my sort of initial being unwell, which I know is the case for a lot of people, any kind of virus. And that kind of knocked me for 6 for a good 3 months. But off the back of that, there was a good couple of years where the chronic symptoms just didn't go away. And that's when I got my CFS diagnosis. It was about 6 months after I had a virus. And at this time, like when I went through this, there's so much out there now. There's so many resources for people, I think, which is amazing. There's still a bit of a lack of integration, I think. Like people get stuck knowing where exactly to look. But at that time, I mean, there wasn't much around. Like I remember my doctor saying to me, like, you could have this anything between 8 to 12 years, which in hindsight, I'm like, that's very specific. But yeah, I just kind of, I don't think I took that on as a belief, but it was definitely a fear in my head, you know, what if this doesn't go away, which is quite common to see in people now. But luckily I found yoga and my mindfulness practice, and I had some really good support around me. And I think I would say I no longer identified with having CFS after about 2.5 years of the initial diagnosis.
So how did this impact your life when you were living with this? What did that look like?
So I was at university. I was like a fresher. I'd just gone into my first year. I had to drop out. I kind of spent a couple months in hospital. And then I tried to go back, to be fair, but that's when the sort of chronic symptoms really started taking a hold, and it just wasn't working. Like I remember having a conversation with one of my lecturers, and he was talking to me, and I wouldn't remember what he had just said. Like I'd be like, sorry, can you say that again? Like it just wasn't going in. I was like, this isn't going to work. So at that time, it kind of felt like my whole world was falling apart because I had to drop out of uni, I had to stop my job, all my sports, which I loved at the time. I had to move back in with my parents, which always feels like a bit of a step back in life, even though it's not. Yeah, I suppose it was, when you lose your health, it's everything, isn't it? Like, you know, nothing's really sustainable.
Yeah, and I'm trying to picture being hit with that at 19, because it's such a crazy transformative part of your life. You're becoming an adult. Independence is this amazing thing that you finally have. And, all your friends are out doing all these active things and probably partying. And then you just have so much taken away from you when you're just kind of getting it. It's sort of like you're just coming into your life and then you just hit a brick wall. That sounds terrifying and probably really hard for your friends and your peers to understand what was going on.
Yeah, for sure. I think I didn't understand really how much had gone on I thought I just got sick and I just wasn't bouncing back. But now I know it was, years and years and years of never listening to my body and, being what we call like a type A personality. And yeah, at the time it was very much like none of my friends, I didn't want to see anyone, to be honest. Like I just felt so bad within my body. Luckily, I have quite a supportive family. My mum was really helpful. But yeah, I think it took me a really long time to understand why I'd got as unwell as I did, because quite a lot of people get viruses and they just kind of snap back. And it's always that, why did this happen to me sort of thing. But when I analyze all the tendencies I had, like the partying, like the constant sports, never listening to my body, never taking a moment to just be present, totally makes sense to me why I got to that kind of date. And I think being 19, it is a really hard age, but I also think every age where you get hit with an illness like this has its own drawbacks. Like I work with quite a few women who are wanting to become mothers, but they're not able to do that because of their health. Or being in your early 20s, I'm sure would be really annoying as well. Like I was kind of going into my early 20s, but I managed to recover by the age of about 22, 23. So there are people who suffer for a lot longer. But yeah, I think it was mostly the social aspect that was hard when I was 19 for sure.
Yeah, good point. There's never a good time. There's never this feels like a good time in my life for everything to just
fall apart.
So I imagine in that time you were trying different things to get well. Most people sort of go through this path of a bunch of things that don't work. Was that your experience?
I don't know if I tried lots of things. I did try one paid thing that didn't work, but it's no surprise to me because it's literally like a PDF. I didn't try a load of things. I didn't do anything too drastic, like massive changes to diet or anything that out there. I just kind of got into practicing yoga. And by that, I literally mean lying in a child's pose and crying sometimes. I don't remember there being that much support-wise. So I kind of just didn't overthink it too much, which I think was actually a blessing in hindsight. When I look at some other people now, like there's so many things to choose from.
Yeah, a lot of us seem to not waste, definitely learn things from it, but go through a path of trying everything we can get our hands on, and it doesn't seem to get us anywhere. And if anything, it can set you back because it can be very stressful trying to implement these 12 different things and do them all perfectly. And as we're learning, nothing really has that much of an effect when you're approaching it that way. So how you eventually did come across the things that help you to recover. So if you weren't trying a lot of things, how did that happen?
I guess, well, I did have therapy. I had CBT, and the woman who did it, she was amazing. She was also a yoga teacher, so I kind of really resonated with her. I think off the back of getting really ill like that, naturally a lot of things change anyway. Like I stopped, I don't want to say abusing my body, but that's essentially what I was doing before. Like I had so many behaviors that weren't supportive of health. I just took a lot of time. I mean, I was quite lucky that I could just move back home. So I didn't have to, go out and get a job and worry too much about finances and things like this. So I took really the next couple of years just to live in a bit of a shell, which isn't the healthiest thing, but I think it was the necessary to bring me back to a state of balance. I think therapy was really supportive for me because I definitely came from a background of what I call like self-sabotaging behaviors, always pushing, being that type A personality, overworking, over-exercising, but also just having such a lack of awareness around it. Like at the time, I thought that was normal. I thought that was successful. And I suppose at that age, like you don't know any different, but I was very much on the hamster wheel of life. Like I went to uni, but I didn't want to go. I just went because I thought it was the thing to do. So yeah, I think I got myself back to a place of recovery. Like what I learned through doing yoga and eventually qualifying, I did like a self-paced qualification in teaching yoga and yoga therapy. That was super helpful for me in terms of developing mindfulness and introspection and being able to actually respond well to sensations that are going on in my body and being aware of like what is going on in my body and what it needs.
Yeah, it's just, you're saying that. I remember I was in a yoga class a while back, and if someone had told me this, I probably would have silently maybe been a little judgy in my head, but I was in the class and I just, all of a sudden I could feel tears just coming. And I didn't realize how disconnected I'd been from myself and my body. And just, it's really can be a powerful thing. So many of the things that we all take for granted, I think, when I interview person after person after person, they're saying things like yoga and meditation and breath work and time with squirrels. My favorite. I used to be nervous when I started this channel because people kept telling me this stuff, and I thought this isn't what anyone wants to hear about recovery from a serious illness. Yeah. But I love that we keep saying it, keep hearing it, because they can go a really long way.
Yeah, no, I completely resonate with that. I think I was never told to do yoga. It wasn't like, oh, try yoga to cure yourself. It was just something I fell into quite organically because I had so much time, and if you're Googling like health, yoga normally comes up. And I think sometimes, to say to someone who's going through the hardest time with CFS, try yoga, it can be really like a bit invalidating. But I think when people learn a bit more about what yoga is, it's not just, stretching on a mat. There's mindfulness, which is the ability to pause before you react or respond to sensations in your body, which is huge for symptom management. And going forwards, when you come out of chronic symptoms, it's about keeping that channel of communication open with your body to prevent yourself getting to this stage again in the future,
So were there other things that you brought into your life that also helped you to recover?
I think what was quite helpful, like I found a job that I really loved. And I do think a big part of why I got sick. I mean, I was working, but I was also doing uni, and I was not living in alignment with anything that brought me passion or purpose or happiness. I was, very much just ticking the boxes again, which I think lots of 19-year-olds do. But if I hadn't have got sick, I probably would have still been, ticking those boxes and just delaying the inevitable. So I think when you get sick like that, it's hard to see it in the moment for sure, but it allows you this kind of time and space to reflect and think, what do I want my life to look like? What do I value? Like, what is my ideal working day or working schedule? And for some people, that looks completely different to all of us. For some people, it'd be raising a family and having kids and working part-time. For others, it'd be working full-time, whatever that may be for you. But I think having that like really rude awakening that your health isn't to be taken for granted allows you to find your values, like how you want to live your life. And that's definitely something I came to eventually, like qualifying in yoga and then CBT as well, which is stuff I still use today. So I think that helped for me.
CBD can get a bad rap, but I know it's been really helpful for a lot of people. And I also know that there's a lot of misinformation or misunderstanding about it. So what has your experience been with that?
Yeah, it can get a bad rep, but then people get really good results from it as well. And I think with any kind of therapy, coaching or support, I think it just has to be person-centered, and like what works for one won't work for another. I think that's one of the most frustrating things for people going through CFS or any kind of chronic symptoms. It's like, I want the answer that's going to work for me. And like, it takes a little bit of trial and error, I suppose, sometimes, or just keeping your mind open to other things working when something hasn't. But in terms of CBT, that's something I would really attribute a lot of my recovery to. I do think something I've personally always looked for in like a therapist or a coach is like just a really good personal connection, like more so than anything else. And that's something I really did feel with the woman who supported me, was that it was like a trusting relationship, which I think is really important for someone you're going to be quite vulnerable and like have to be very honest with. You have to communicate with that person. So I guess I was quite lucky that I came across her, which was really the first time round in my recovery, because I know a lot of people have negative experiences with whoever or whatever it is they're doing, and that then leads to a lot of doubt. So yeah, for me, CBT was really helpful. I then went on to do a certification in it, and it's very interesting. I love it, but I also totally agree that it's not what everyone needs at said time in their journey.
So what does cognitive behavioral therapy look like when you are working through recovery from these sorts of conditions on any given day or week? How is that implemented?
Yeah, so I'm not a cognitive behavioral therapist. I just did a certification in it. So a lot of that informs the coaching I do with people. And I think when working with someone with CFS, some really important things is like to feel heard and seen and validated, because so often we're not, or they're not, from like friends, family, medical professionals. Like there's this feeling of like always having to advocate for yourself, never really feeling heard. And that leads to so much disconnection. And like connection, authentic connection, is one of the biggest pillars of our health, which is, again, why CFS can be so detrimental, because your social life suffers, your connection suffers, your connection to yourself. So if you can provide that as a coach, to like literally hold space, listen, like properly listen, because it is a skill, and validate things while providing tools for them to like move forwards, just that alone is so healing, because there's a huge lack of feeling heard in people's life. Like not even with CFS, just, the hecticness of life, you say something to your partner and they're already off on something else, and friends, you're just like talking back and forth. And I think when you're going through something as heavy as CFS, you need a safe space to express what you're going through without feeling judged or gaslighted or any of these things. But your question was, what does it look like for them? So that looks like a lot of behavioral change, I suppose, in terms of daily habit formation, things like this, like, because there's, I'm sure like the tendency to feel like you can't do anything and you have no functionality of your body, which is one of the most horrible feelings in the world, because your body should be your home. So it's, what can we do to start building up and building some compassion with your body and some essentially like trust again with yourself that you can feel safe within your own body. So things like mindfulness practice, emotional regulation, emotional acceptance, like physical acceptance in terms of symptoms, it kind of being able to be more accepting of them. It's quite similar really to like the 5 stages of grief. I don't know if you've heard of them. Like, I think acceptance is the last one.
So depression, anger, denial, anger, depression, bargaining, something like acceptance, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I used to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. And like, to me, it sounds very similar to what you go through with when you get a CFS diagnosis, because you do start in that kind of bargaining, like looking for a quick fix, like, I'm not accepting this, like, what can I do? And then you go through that process of what really looks like grief. And I think giving yourself permission to go on that without judging yourself, as best as you can, to finally come to a place of acceptance. That was when I saw a huge shift in myself. And that's when I tend to see a big shift in other people as well, because so much energy is freed up when you can finally accept and like meet your body where it's at, probably for the first time in years, and it's very hard. It's not easy, but I always say to people, like, acceptance is a stepping stone to move on and actually improve in terms of symptoms and everything. And I think it's a misconception that acceptance is settling for or staying stuck where you are, because it's such an unfamiliar feeling to be okay with your situation and how you feel in your body, especially at one of the lowest points in your life. But if you can do that, it has the opposite effect. It frees you up to like a full sustainable recovery.
Yeah, it's such a good thing to learn just for life in general, because we're going to find ourselves over and over and over in life in situations that we can't immediately change, and just finding some level of acceptance, not that it's going to be this way forever, but this is where I am right now. So how do I be at peace with that? And I think too about the stage of grief bargaining is one of the main reasons that you and I are having this conversation right now. Because like many people, when I was really sick, I had these sort of desperate conversations with the universe or whoever it is that, you personally talk to. Like, just show me the path, help me get through that. You don't have to do it for me. Just like, give me little clues, just help me get out of there. And I promise I will do whatever I can to get as much information out as possible. So yeah, and they're not fun stages to go through, but they do serve their purpose, and it's a good lesson for life, because they do keep coming up.
Yeah, I always think that like that all the things I learn in recovery like are so relevant to my life now. It's not like all for nothing, like you grow so much, I think, as a person, and develop so many valuable skills that it makes your life, so much more beautiful and amazing after you do inevitably come out the other end.
It's growth boot camp for sure. It's not fun, but most people do come out the other side with a whole bunch of skills and insights that they would be really hard to gain if things were just going smoothly. So I'm curious, before this all happened, when you were 19, where did you see yourself now? And how is that different, like career-wise and just how you live your life versus what you are actually doing now? How did this change you?
Yeah, I think before I felt really like I didn't feel it, but now I look back and I think I was so unaware. Like I never paused to ask myself what health actually means. I just thought it meant exercising a lot and eating not a lot, which it doesn't. I think I saw myself, the path I was going down was very much like, did school, was going to do university, would go and get a job in London is usually the thing we do in England. I don't know why, but just kind of going through the motions. And I didn't really know what I wanted. I think when you don't value your health, and this is something, again, I'm really grateful for having a health scare, is like, I wasn't grateful for much. Like I wasn't grateful for my health. I thought my body like owed me everything. I didn't stop and allow it to like experience joy or presence or those moments, like chasing the squirrels, whatever it is, or, the little moments of happiness and peace. Like I just had so little awareness And then, so getting sick was a real rude awakening. And like you said, fast track to growing up a lot. Like I was quite young when I got unwell, and I felt quite disconnected from other people my age because I stopped drinking at the age of 19. I didn't ever want to go out partying again. Like, I think a lot of that changed for me. And ever since recovering, my life has looked more like just being more intentional and making sure the actions that I take, majority of the time, because I'm a huge fan of imperfection, kind of align with my values. So things that make me happy, like travel, which is why I've been in Portugal recently. My work I'm really passionate about, so I fill my time with that a lot. I'm trying to think on the spot now what else I've just things like I'm a huge foodie, like food experiences. I really value movement, so I make sure I have lots of movement in my life. But again, it's always checking my intention behind my action, because something that contributed to me getting sick for sure was my tendency to over-exercise or push my body through things from a place of non-acceptance and a place of essentially self-hate or not feeling good enough as I was. Whereas now I try and make sure most of my actions come from a place of me feeling good enough as I am, but wanting to do more and be better.
So much good stuff there. I love all of that. I think my favorite one from it, though, is I'm a big fan of imperfection. I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to steal that. I'm just going to tell it to myself as many times as possible. Little things, big things. I was thinking about like doing my hair this morning and it was not cooperating. And I just, in all these moments, whether it's work or small stuff, to be like, you know what? I'm a big fan of imperfection.
That's it. That's what I go for every time.
Amazing. It's such a simple thing. But for so many of us, it came from this overachiever perfectionist mindset, which is really healthy and unhealthy. And just, comes from a feeling of things aren't good enough. I'm not good enough unless it's perfect. And you're just going to make yourself crazy. So yeah, it's a really great mindset hack. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Imperfect action, I think, is my life motto. Might get a tattoo of it.
Make sure there's some imperfections in the tattoo. Get a spelling mistake. You now are, career-wise, professionally, helping other people who are going through similar things. So tell us about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I developed a program, which is a 3-month program of person-centered one-to-one support for people who are going through CFS. And I specifically help people with their relationship with their body. So I tend to work with people who come from a similar history as I did, in that they're very type A inclined. I call them self-sabotaging behaviors, but I feel like that sounds a bit extreme, but that's essentially what they are. Like when your behaviors are driven by not feeling good enough. And usually, it's the same old thing of getting some kind of trigger, whether it's a virus or pregnancy or grief, whatever it is that you associate with making you ill in the first place. I'm almost willing to put money on the fact that there's always a history of type A or some kind of self-sabotage there. So yeah, I work with people to help them develop things like self-compassion, mindfulness, embodiment practices, and really start to heal that relationship with their body so they become their own number one fan rather than their own number one critic. And it's really hard to do that when you're at a place of your lowest point ever, And I say to my clients all the time, I'm like, if you can do this now, you're going to be sweet in the future, because when your body's not functioning and when you maybe can't work or have kids or grow your family or, exercise, all the good things that we want to do in life, having self-compassion and being grateful for your body and all these things are so hard. And practicing mindfulness and emotional regulation is really hard because you don't want to look in, because there's either physical pain going on through your symptoms or emotional pain, or both, kind of two sides of the same coin there. So those are the sorts of things I work on with people in the program. And then usually after 3 months, that's the minimum time to start to really integrate these things into your life and see change. But then some people end up staying for 6 months up to a year, which is amazing because we develop really strong relationships. But yeah, that's kind of the work I do with people, and I absolutely love it.
That is so amazing. And of course, everything people need to connect with you, learn more about you, follow you will be in the video description. So I really encourage people to expand that and take a peek, because Sky is clearly an amazing person and doing really great work and has a lot of insight from her own experience with this. So definitely worth checking out. This is so amazing, Sky. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad we've connected.
Thank you. You too. Your work is honestly beautiful. Like, it's so amazing. And yeah, I'm so glad I came. It was actually some of my clients that said, "Oh, have you found Raelan?" And I was like, "Nope." It's like, I need to look into that. But yeah, thank you for everything you do as well. It's really wonderful.
I love how all of us, people watching, there's so many people in the comments that I talk to all the time. Our community, we're getting really connected and working together on these things. And it's amazing. It's a hellish nightmare experience to go through, but there are a lot of silver linings, which is really great, because it's some of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life are in this community of ours. So it's really, we can all meet and connect. And speaking of which, I want to send a shout out to Myrtle Keyhole. Thank you so much for joining and becoming a channel member. It's people like you, big hugs to you, who support the channel and join and help make all of this feasible and sustainable long term. So if you're interested in joining and you're watching, you're not a member, you can click the join button to learn more and get access to stuff that other people don't get. All right, well, that is it for today. Thank you so much again, Sky. Thank you to everyone watching. Massive hugs to you, whatever you're facing. Keep at it. You have totally got this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got tons out of it. And I hope to see you in this next one that'll pop up that I think you will really like.